Well, hello and welcome. Now, over the last few weeks while we've been enduring the partial lockdown thanks to coronavirus, I've been talking the idea of doing one or two little videos based in here in the motor house garage. So for this one I thought I'd do just a short introductory video to my little Austin A40. Now this is a car that I've known for a very long time, or most of my life really. It was bought new by relatives of mine down in Devon, and I remember riding in it when I was a kid back in the 70s, being picked up from the station in it. And then it came to us in the late 80s, and I drove it for many years and went all over the place with it. Now it does need some restoration, and over the last 30 years or so I've been accumulating the parts for it, because parts aren't all that easy, and if anything it's easier now to find parts via the A40 Club, but 30 or so years ago there was much less around. So yeah, I thought I'd just do a short introductory video. So I think probably the next thing to do is pump up a couple of the tyres and roll it outside, and then have a bit of a look at it and have a walk around. Sorry the pump isn't quite in period, it's a little earlier in the car, but it still works, it still does the job. So, much rather buy these than some cheapo thing from Halfords. So just try and get some air in here, and hopefully the brakes haven't stuck.
So sadly, I've been promoted from camera assistant to pusher assistant with pushing this old A40 out, so here we go.
Right, let's give it a go. Come on then, push.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, if we have a closer look around, now the boot lid has obviously gone at the bottom, but the rest of the back end isn't too bad at all, to be honest. The boot floor is really good in it. I was fairly sort of conscientious back in the day when I was running it, and did wax oil it quite regularly underneath and inside, so that's actually survived pretty well. So the car looks tatty, but to be honest it's not actually that bad, certainly compared to some A40s I've seen. Now, for some reason the driver's side has deteriorated more than the passenger side, but saying that, on the back wings for example, the rot is really confined to down here below the rear corner bumpers. The actual wheel arches themselves are pretty good, and if I move around here you'll see that the doors aren't bad, and it just needs doing at the bottom, at the back edge of the sill where they always go. Now the sills themselves are fairly sound. There's a little hole at the back there now, but the garage that did some work to it before it came to us in the late 80s, they actually replaced the sills, but looking closely all they did is put cover sills on, and the cover sills are off for a Mark II. The actual jacking point is in the wrong position entirely, so that'll want sorting out, but I have got some new old stock sills to go on it, so that's not a problem. Now, quite a few years ago my idea was to get some lower half wing repair panels. So to do that I actually chopped out the lower half because there was rotten as a pear down here, and this ledge causes a problem with corrosion. Mud builds up here and it just rots through, so whenever you look at an A40 you'll often see a bubble just about here. It had gone at the front as well, and all below here where the stainless steel strip goes along, so it was all looking a bit fragile. So at the time I was thinking I'll get a lower half repair and try and preserve this. So that was the main reason for lobbing this off in the first place. But since then I've managed to get hold of a new old stock front wing for both sides, so I won't actually need this now. But actually, apart from a little bit at the bottom there, it's actually pretty solid. The floors are good on it, the spring hangers, they're all fine. I had a look underneath it not that long ago, and it's pretty good, to be honest. If I have a look inside, I mean, there's an original oil change sticker which I'll have to try and preserve, and this is the old tool kit, but the floors themselves have actually survived pretty well. The rubber coverings are long gone, But you can see how oily and everything it is in here. And you've got the original holes there. There's just a very small hole in the corner, but you know, for an A40 it's lasted pretty well, to be honest. Same on the other side. The floors just want a cleaning up and a repaint. Most of the trim's not bad either, to be honest. What I do need to get hold of is another rear seat squab, because even though the covering's good, some mice decided to put a nest under the back of it, underneath it, and basically that got damp and it's rotted away the frame. So while I'll certainly be able to reuse this covering, unfortunately I'll have to try and find another seat just to get the frame of it and move this covering onto the replacement seat. Now if we have a look here, again the floors are pretty sound and there's nothing much going on there. It's still got the original sound deadening stuff going on here. There's a little bit of the original rubber flooring as well, but it's gone rock hard, to be honest, so I don't think I'll be able to reuse any of that. It may soften up with a bit of heat, but I'm not holding out much hope of that, so that's a shame, but for 60 years it's not really surprising. So let's go and have another look around, a bit further round. So like I say, this front wing, I've got a replacement for that. Now, it took me many years to find another one of these grille support channel pieces here. Now I believe they are being remade by the A40 Club, but back then, you know, in the early 2000s, there was just nothing around. But fortunately I found that. I think it was at an auto jumble somewhere. Also, this I did change. It's gone a bit rusty now, but I have got another one to go on, so that's not a problem. The bonnet's original, it's not in too bad a condition really. The inner wings are all good. And this wing, well, it is actually repairable, but it's gone round the front and it started to go below the strip, like I was saying, on the other side, and here where the little ledge is just behind here, they always go there. So by the time you replace probably that and the piece down there and the piece at the front, to be honest, I'll probably just put the other one on that I've got for it now. I'd prefer to keep it original, but I think once you get to the point of starting to patch up panels and trying to make good with not a very good starting point, you're always going to be chasing the rust, and especially on one of these where they rust quite merrily on their own. So anything you can do to stop them rotting away, I think is probably a good idea. And after, I mean, 60 years, you know, it probably deserves to have fresh wings put on it. But overall, it's not too bad. The sill on this side, again, you can see that the sill should have a piece that comes in and goes behind the outer wing, and that's just not on these cover sills at all. And if I put my finger behind there, I can feel that there's bits of the original steel there which aren't very pretty, so new sills will be going on there. The door itself is good. Funny enough, the doors on A40s don't tend to rot that much, everything else does, but the doors are usually alright. And if we have a quick look in here, you can see the original chassis plate on the door post there. The steps, I mean the steps aren't bad actually, and again the floors, I've got the original drain plug holes there, and one over there still with a rubber thing in it, but they're actually really good. They've never been welded and they won't need welding either, fortunately, so that's quite a relief. So it's have a look under here, again it's all pretty good. You can see the mice got in when this was stored under a lean-to for a few years. That's when the mice got in, which is a bit of a shame, but not to worry, can't do anything about it now. But otherwise the interior is pretty good, to be honest. The headlining survived. Back seats, like I say, I need another rear seat base, but the rear backrest is good. It just wants cleaning up. And there we go, roof, bit of rust around the gutters, but it's only surface rust. I did put a piece in here, but I'll do that again. Here, it's just a bit of surface rust, I think. I don't think there's anything too dodgy going on. Inner wings are good. But again, it just needs the pieces doing below the rear corner bumpers down there, which it's all fairly standard stuff where the mud gets caught up and then they just rust away. But overall, it's a pretty good starting point, to be honest. And I mean, they're not worth anything in this condition, but it's all the family history is what makes it worthwhile to me, you know, because I've always known this thing, so it has to be done. And if we have a quick look at the front here, I'll try and pop the bonnet up and then have a quick look under there. Right, so here we go under the bonnet. Now I've spent many hours under here. As you can see, I mean, the inner wings often go on these, they go on the bulkhead at the back there, same for over there. But I did slop some wax all around, which you can just see the remains of. And I used to sort of sluice oil and all sorts of stuff underneath, and to be honest, oil, grease underneath, it might not look pretty, but it doesn't half preserve them. If we have a look down here, it's all pretty good. So the wings are spot welded on, unlike say on a Moggy, they're spot welded through here, so they'll have to be separated. Same obviously over there. And the engine is a stock 948cc A series engine. The carburettor is different. It originally had the Zenith on it, but Dad put this, I think it's an 1.25 inch SU on it, just to pep it up a little bit, and it did work. It's a much nicer carburettor. The Mark II A40s had an SU on, so it's not too great a move from originality. Now the cylinder head that's on there at the moment is a standard A40 head. The original Austin head I took off, and I've still got it, and I did for a while run a 12G206 head off Dad's old MG1100. I think there were bigger valves and just a bit more exciting. Very similar in spec to the 295, which some of the Minis had, I think. But yeah, it really did go quite well. I remember it pull and indicated 80 quite easily. But at the moment it started using a bit of oil. I've done valve stem seals over the years, and I think the guides was getting pretty worn, so I put this original head back on it just for now, the original spec head, and that's what's on there at the moment. So yeah, I'm quite well used to working under here. I put new dampers on it not long before it came off the road. I think it was last on the road in about 1995, 96, something like that. So it does run. I did fire it up a year or so back and change the points, and it fired straight up with a temporary fuel feed, but with no exhaust on it. It was a little noisy, but yeah, it's just sort of scruffy and tired, but it's not too bad. So once the front wings are done and the sills are replaced, there's not actually much rust on this thing at all, and I've got all the panels for it now, so it's really just a case of finding the time to get on with it. which is easier said than done. But one of my favourite things about this car is the fact that there's a lot of old history with it, and anyone who's read the old classic site over the years, 'cause it's been going a long time now, will know that it's the history of these things that really sort of floats my boat. I mean, the MGB there's got quite a lot of history to it, because it was a factory development car. And the big old Dodge truck, I mean, that's been on the site for years, and everyone knows about that who's been on there. But yes, this has got quite a lot of early paperwork to sort of confirm its history, and that, I think, just makes it, for me, it's got the original registration still. None of the number plate robbers have had a chance to get at it, which is nice. And it's still even got the original supplying dealer plaque on the door there for Pikes of Exeter and Plymouth. And they were based, there was a big BMC agent in Exeter, and that's where they got it from. And those letters that I've got for when it was being delivered new are all on Pike & Co Limited headed paper, which is pretty cool, to be honest. So I love all that kind of thing. So I think the next thing to do, having had a quick walk around the old girl, is to have a look at the paperwork and see exactly what still survives with it. I'll leave the young man fiddling with his carburettor over there, and we'll go and have a look at this old paperwork that I've managed to keep together for the car, and we'll find some shade and have a closer look at it. Right, let's have a look in this album here. I'll just sit down and have a look. Right, somewhere in here are the pictures of the A40. Oh, there's a little Ford pickup used to have. Oh, there's an old Vauxhall 12. Right, here we go. Right, these photographs were taken not long after I started running it back in the late 80s. For a time it had Volvo 264 GLE seats in it, just to try and make it a little bit more comfortable. As you can see, it was quite a presentable little car, really. And We used it for quite some time like that. This was at Cheadle when we used to live over there. Now here are some photographs from the early 1960s, I think, and that's my great aunt stood with the car on a holiday somewhere or other. Nice little caravan too, wouldn't mind that. But yes, that was it back in the day. Still with a little Lucas Fog Ranger lamp that's on there to now, still at this time. More recently I found these photographs, which also belong to it, and these are all of it with the first owners. There's a group of ladies. That's at my great Auntie Alma, who was the co-owner of the car. I'll just move that up there so you can see it a bit better. There's another picture there of, I'm not sure who this lady is, but that's my Auntie Alma again. And again, this is probably an Exmouth. The car looking very smart. There we go again, another nice little picture. And that's my great uncle Leslie, who owned the car. He bought it and was the first owner and owned it for many years. And in fact, it's only had 3 registered owners. Him, Mum had it briefly for about a month or 2, and then it went into my name. Show the picture, not quite sure who that lady is. Oof, magnificent caravan. Not sure who that is. Standard. I didn't know that was there. I think that was the back garden of where they used to live. Just pop those to one side for a moment. Now we'll have a look in here. Now, let's have a look. 29th of July 1960, Pike & Co Limited. Dear sir, we now have pleasure in advising you that your new Austin A40 Deluxe Saloon, finished in Farina Grey, has been received from the works and we are preparing it for the road. Would you kindly sign the enclosed taxation form and return it to us together with an insurance cover note for licensing purposes? We will notify you immediately the car is ready. You can see it's Pike & Co Limited of Elphington Street in Exeter. I don't think it's there anymore. Back in the day it's probably quite a busy little place, because A40s sold in pretty reasonable numbers really. Now, well, that was July, 29th of July. A couple of weeks later, 12th of August. Dear sir, we now have had the pleasure of supplying your new Austin car and we enclose warranty form for your retention. When the car has covered 500 miles, we shall be delighted to carry out the after-sales service on a free of charge basis, oils only chargeable. So that you will not be inconvenienced, would you kindly contact our works department, telephone Exeter 58241, extension numbers 8 and 14, a week in advance to arrange a suitable day. We trust your new car will give you every satisfaction and you can be assured of every attention. Yours faithfully, for and on behalf of P. Pike & Co Limited, J. Right, there we go. So the car is ready for collection. Let's go and see what's over here. Ah, and there's the original warranty for it. So Pike & Co Limited, A40, Mr. Leslie Freeman, that was my great uncle, Summer Hayes, Exmouth, 9th of August 1960. So all this paperwork survived, which is great really, because so often this stuff disappears. Now here is a certified logbook, Castrol lubrication service, issued again by Pike & Co. And the idea was you'd keep a record of your servicing activities in here, and this only appears to have been filled in a couple of times. 29th of July 1960 with 9 miles on the clock, it now had the full service, and 830 miles later it had another service on the 8th of October 1960. And it would appear that was the last time this little book was used. But yep, there we go, 820 FTT, A40 Farina, Mr. Freeman. How these things survive, I just don't know. Because these all survive, but none of the original old MOTs survive, or the tax discs for some reason. So, right, there's like an order sheet, just going back to July. Date of arrival, this would have been at the Pike & Co's, 25th of July, A40 F Grey, Freeman, 820 FTT. Complaints on delivery, fit 2, nice spelling, 2 wing mirrors. They're not on it now, but originally it had 2 boomerang knock-back mirrors on the front wings. One of those was snapped off while I had it parked outside Mum and Dad's house, which was a bit of a shame, so I'll need to find some of those. Well, we have got some old MOTs. When's this? 1967 to 68, and another one behind. There's a receipt there for Pioneer Garage in 63 for another service. Top up the rear axle, drain and refill gearbox engine, blah blah blah. Which is nice. Old insurance document. And then we jump forward to when we took it on. This was November 1987 when I started driving in it, because I started learning late in 87 in Mum's Mark II Austin Mini Estate GVU 146E, but shortly before I was due to take my test in December 87, the A40 came along, so my L plates were swapped over to that, and I went out with Dad on many occasions just to sort of refine the art of driving, and I actually turned up and took my test in this in Didsbury in South Manchester, 22nd December 1987. Fortunately I passed, and that was it, and then it was put onto the road. So this technically was the first car I ever had on the road. A couple of years prior to that I'd been gifted by Dad a very rusty Mark III Spitfire that was in pieces, with no floors or sills or anything else, but this was the first car proper that I had on the road, and I'm just so pleased I've still got it now. We took it to many shows and different things. This was an old garage near Stafford that used to have all the old petrol pumps still there. This was me and a mate. There's a lot of the old taxis that were on it during the time that I ran it on the road. The last one actually dated January 97. I think it came off the road in 96. You know, a couple more MOTs, a few more photographs, blah blah blah. That was at Stafford Polytechnic with my mate's prefect, with a kindred spirit. And then parked up in the lockup that I kept it in for a while. Now over here, I'll just move this over to one side. I've got a box here of goodies that also refer to it. Now that's the original AA badge that was on the front, which, if we have a look at these old photographs again, the old black and white jobs. There we go, there's one. So that is the badge that's on there, which is quite nice that that's still there. This is the Austin logbook and diary for 1961 with compliments of P. Pike & Co. So this would have been given to him when he picked the car up, and he hasn't even used it, it's still there, but this was given to every buyer of a new Austin at the time, and it could just give you some useful motoring information and a few nice adverts. But yes, this is original to the car, which is pretty cool. Got the original handbooks with Mr. Freeman's name still on the top. August 59 that was printed. There's a Grapho ref, which I think is original to it as well. Don't think this is something that I bought more recently. So these are a really handy book. If anyone's rebuilding an A40, get one of these. And all this, or most of this, is paperwork that turned up when their house was cleared after they died, and it all relates to the journeys they did in the A40, South West England, Shell touring service. Got various maps, very nice SO1, Shell touring service again, a few journey route maps that they had printed, a few of those. So I do remember they came up to see us in Cheadle one year. That was, I think, the longest trip they ever did in it. Got a BP touring guide to Europe. I don't think they ever went to Europe with it, but they got the guide. Some more maps, another Grapho ref, which these are so handy because you can buy the full big parts list, but if you want something to cart around when you're going on auto jumbles, this thing is great because it shows you how everything comes together, so it's well worth having one of those. So that's a book that I got more recently, that's not original to it. Of Ollie Slager, is that right? A40 manuals, which were mine, which I bought. Got some more MOTs from when I had it on the road, which I guess is part of its history now, given that it was 30 odd years ago. Motorist guide to early opening and late closing of Shell service stations. Got A40 accessories. Schedule of repair charges, so that you knew you weren't being ripped off. this and that. Let's have a look. Got some more maps I think going on here. Yep, southern and eastern England. This is all original to their ownership of the car. That's why I've kept them all in here, just so they don't get mixed up with the stuff I've already got. National touring map of central Scotland. I don't know if they ever went to Scotland in it, but they got the map. And a tour of Devon and Cornwall. So if they wanted to go out for a nice little day trip, they could use this and pop down to Bideford or wherever else there is in here. Launceston, Tavistock, Teignmouth, Dawlish, Exeter, Plymouth. The world was their oyster when this A40 came along. I think it was the first and the only new car they ever bought. I know my great uncle, he did go and have a look at a Mark II A40, presumably at Pikes again, but he wasn't keen on the altered styling at the front. Unfortunately, he didn't chop in the Mark I against it, but I'm not that keen either, if the truth be told. A few old postcards. Mullicott Cross Caravan Park. Now I wonder whether this is the caravan park that the colour photos in the album there, I wonder if that's where they were taken. So some very attractive static caravan accommodation if you wish to spend a few days down there. Exmouth, that was amongst their stuff, so pretty cool. Northern Ireland, I don't think they went there. And these are a few odds and ends that I picked up over time. This is for an A40 Countryman, which has the lift up rear window. But this is the saloon version, which came out first. 1958 the A40 came out. And this, a year or so later, was the Countryman version, which I think is what they should have made from the very beginning. With the lift up back, it makes it so much more practical, because otherwise you're trying to load in stuff through this tiny little aperture. But yeah, nice little car. So newspaper cuttings, don't know what these are. I think I used to have these on display in the back of the car. Oh, that's a street map of Exmouth in Devon. Like I say, this is where they lived. So you've got a nice little thing. A few adverts for the Manor Hotel, Miller's Garage, Morrison Wolseley Sales and Service, the Strand, Exmouth. Wonderful. Just love all this old stuff. Is there anything else that relates to it? That's just a copy of the old warranty card. So yeah, so fortunately a lot of old paperwork survives for this particular car, which is one of the reasons I like it so much. I would have loved to have got on with the restoration before now, but other things come along and distract you. I mean, I started doing that many years ago, and then we got involved in a house move, and that kind of sort of stalled things, and then we got set up down here, and other cars come along and need work, and even those that run are on the road, they still need loads of work just to keep them running. So unfortunately the A40 is tending to be sort of put on the back burner, but all the time it has been stored under cover here, just to sort of preserve it as best as possible. And while it does need a fair bit of restoration, it could be a whole lot worse. And so many A40s have been scrapped just because they've been in a terrible condition. But I'd like to try and keep this one as original as possible. Obviously the front wings will have to change. I've got some new headlamp surrounds to go on it, because he did have a little bump in it shortly before it came to us in about 87, early 87-ish. He had a little bump and dented this corner. So it went off to a garage and they tidied it up, and I think that's probably when they did the sills, the cover sills. So it would, you know, that's about the time that work was done, about 1987, and he had to give up driving at about that time, which is why it came up to Mum. So Mum and Dad sold the Mini, much to Mum's annoyance, because she used to love driving that but hated driving this thing on cross plies. And yeah, that's it, came up to us. Mum didn't like it, so I took it on, and it transferred to me in about October, November 87. I took a few driving lessons in it with Dad. Yep, and then I took my test in it, and that was it then. I was away. I used it for quite a few years, and in 88, 89 I was doing my A-levels, so I'd use it to go to school in. I'd often park it in the staff car park, and there'd be a note that'd go up on the blackboard in the sixth form common room saying, will the owner of 820 FTT please move that car? So I'd have to turf it outside onto the road, which was always quite irksome. And then the next day I'd just put it back in the staff car park again, because there was always space. It was just someone being a bit officious, I think, or didn't like old Austins, which is hard to believe, but yeah, these people are around. So yeah, so that's the history of this little Austin A40. It came and spent all its life in Devon, and then came up here in the late 80s, and it's been with me ever since. So hopefully one day it'll get back on the road again. It's lasted 60 years now. In a month or so's time it'll probably be its 60th birthday. I could do with checking that out at Gaydon actually, just to find the actual build date. But yeah, it'd be lovely to get the old girl back on the road and just potter around in it again. So yeah, so that's this brief introduction to the A40. It probably isn't quite as brief as I was planning on doing, but once you start rambling, once I start rambling, that's the beginning of the end. So yeah, I hope this little video was of interest to A40 people out there, and maybe just general fans of Austins and old British cars in general. And all being well, future updates will show some work being done on this little slice of British motoring history. So yeah, please like and subscribe, stick around and follow what's going on here, and hopefully there'll be news to come on its restoration. Thank you for watching. Right, come on, give it a shove. Never want to shy away from child labour. Come on.
Hey, you can't do it, I want to do it.
Oh, go on then. Whoosh, whoosh. Yep, that'll do, that'll do. Well, good job.